I've decided to circle back this week with my pro wrestling game retrospective series and cover the 16-bit wrestling games licensed under World Championship Wrestling and its rival, the World Wrestling Federation, in the early 1990s. I wasn't going to initially, but I felt brushing over them like I did in previous videos was lazy and did them a bit of a disservice. Despite their more humorous elements and unpleasant moments, there's still some fun to be had with them. Love 'em or hate 'em, they played a vital role shaping the genre we have today. They walked so later wrestling games could run. Starting now with a review of WCW SuperBrawl Wrestling, released for the Super Nintendo in late 1994, developed by the Australian-based Beam Software and published by FCI Incorporated. SuperBrawl was the one and only WCW licensed video game that came out during the fourth generation. A version of the game was planned for the Sega Genesis, but for whatever reason, it was ultimately cancelled. At the time, SuperBrawl was the most visually impressive and mechanically advanced game WCW fans could get their hands on for home consoles. Prior to this, the next best thing was WCW Wrestling on the original Nintendo. That one was developed by Nichibutsu and published by Pony Canyon in Japan and FCI Inc. in North America. Its roster included Nature Boy Ric Flair, Sting, the Total Package Lex Luger, Road Warrior Hawk, Road Warrior Animal, Dr. Death Steve Williams, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, Rick Steiner, missing the K in his name for some reason, Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert, Mike Rotunda, Michael P.S. Hayes, and the Game Master Kevin Sullivan. WCW Wrestling on NES may look primitive. Every wrestler has the exact same attire, long tights with shorter black trunks over top. Only their head models and the coloring varies. Not that accurate, but the gameplay is surprisingly fun. You perform punches and kicks until your opponent bends over in a groggy state, and then grapple them with one of the directions, and hold the button down to fill up a power meter to increase the move's damage. What's cool is that before matches, you can customize your moveset from a selectable list of 8 with Irish whip moves and finishers unique to each wrestler. Finishers are done by pressing A and B simultaneously when your opponent has low health. The screen will flash and the move does tons of damage. The single-player mode has you play through a series of matches against every other wrestler in the game. There's a password system so you can easily continue where you left off. After beating all your opponents, you compete in a world title match against the game's boss character, the 7'4", 500-pound WCW Master. His appearance is based on the short-lived Giant Machine gimmick Andre the Giant had in 1986 when he was billed from Japan. It was ludicrous. Clearly no one else but him was under that mask. WCW Wrestling on the OG Nintendo might be archaic, but with singles and tag matches to choose from, customizable movesets, including finishers, and oddly satisfying gameplay with those power meters, it had a lot going for it in the era and may have been the greatest pro wrestling game released for the NES. I wish I could say the same for SuperBrawl the following generation. It starts off promising with a first-person view of the WCW production truck and a decent soundbite from Tony Schiavone, but after that, shit goes downhill quickly. The menus in this game have been heavily criticized. The one with who I assume is Flyin' Brian Pillman makes him look naked. The wrestler selection screen is probably the most obnoxious in not only pro wrestling game history, but video game history in general. The wrestlers all take turns gyrating and growing large and yelling out various taunts. It makes you uncomfortable. The roster features Ravishing Rick Rude, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, The Natural Dustin Rhodes, Barry Windham, Johnny B. Bad, Vader, Rick Steiner, Scott Steiner, Flyin' Brian Pillman, Ron Simmons, Sting, and of course, the Nature Boy Ric Flair. I like how after you select a wrestler, you can read up on their stats. these screens look good. I wish the developers had you scroll through these instead of the other abomination you are greeted with. Gameplay-wise, SuperBrawl isn't as bad as it looks on the surface. You've got a health meter, a strength meter that depletes after each strike and grapple you deliver, and a special move meter that can store up to 4 finishers at once. The various punching strikes are done by pressing B or B along with a direction. Drop kicks are performed by pressing Y. The grapple moves are all assigned to the A and X buttons, and pressing them along with various directions have your wrestler doing vertical suplexes, belly-to-belly tosses, backbreakers, tombstone piledrivers, sunset flips, etc. Every wrestler in the game has the exact same moveset, which is a bummer, but there is a surprisingly decent amount of moves to pull off, and the controls aren't that complicated either. Things can feel a bit stiff and unresponsive at times, but with practice and patience, you get in the rhythm of everything. I did say every wrestler has the same moves, but each of them do have their own unique finisher activated by pressing A and B once you've earned one. The animations for a few of these are wonky, but hey, at least the game implements them. Not every wrestling game did back then. Submission finishers will have the ref counting to 10 before a wrestler gives up, which may sound weird, but it's an identical system to what was found in the Acclaim games on the PS1. Not ideal, of course, but it's never really bothered me. There are 3 difficulties in SuperBrawl. TV Heavyweight is the easy mode, USA Heavyweight is medium, and World Heavyweight is hard. The difficulties only really determine how much damage you take from moves. I didn't notice any difference to the AI itself. When you win matches under each category, you get a victory screen with your chosen wrestler and the title they won, colored bronze, silver, or gold. If you lose a match, you game over, and see this eerie arm twitching and reaching into the air. You can have your matches be one fall to a finish, best 2 out of 3 if you want there to be 20-second countouts, or have them contested under a time limit. There are singles matches, tag teams, tournaments, and an ultimate challenge that has you take on every other wrestler in the game in succession. You can't select your opponents in SuperBrawl, which has always been a pet peeve of mine. It's an essential feature to have in any wrestling game. Defeats the purpose of playing them because it removes some of the fantasy element. Apart from some of the wrestlers having inaccurate ring gear, a few of the moves being animated rather awkwardly, and the competitors moving around like they shit their drawers, the presentation isn't half bad in this game. Matches don't begin with entrances or in-ring introductions, but I appreciate the on-screen graphics of the ring bell being rung and commentator Tony Schiavone appearing every once in a while to call any high-impact maneuvers. Wrestlers will also pop up to verbally taunt their opponents as well. The camera angle in the game is slanted and overhead, a 3/4 perspective, which is a bit more unique compared to a lot of other wrestling titles around that time. The ring ropes are light blue, dark blue, and gold. I don't know if WCW ever had that setup. There are big WCW and SuperBrawl logos on the center of the canvas. I like how the crowd is somewhat animated. Outside, you can see the steel bars suspending the ring underneath the apron, and there's visible garbage on the floor mats. Sadly, you can only move around the bottom 2 sides of the ring. The top 2 are inaccessible. SuperBrawl features a referee that walks around the ring with its own separate AI. The other wrestling games from this generation had refs too. We take them for granted now, but it's crazy to think that after the 16-bit era, it took what felt like forever before we saw them debut in 3D. A lot of people online have claimed WCW SuperBrawl is one of the worst wrestling games ever made. There could have been some notable improvements made to it presentation-wise, especially on the menu side of things, but I think the in-match graphics are quite impressive for the time. The controls of the game are simple and easy to learn, nowhere near as difficult and frustrating to wrap your head around as some other wrestling titles that were released before and after it. Honestly, I had some fun with SuperBrawl. I'm not ashamed to admit that. A few of my matches felt epic. The computer and I were at war for control. Next up in this retrospective, I will have a video out on the WWF's 16-bit wrestling games, Super WrestleMania, Royal Rumble, and Raw. Stay tuned. I want to thank you for watching this review. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. Hit that bell icon to be notified of all future uploads, and become a producer if you can over on Patreon and help nominate video topics. I will see you all in the next one. Take care and stay nerdy.